Welcome, Shelby County High School football fans, to game night here at the Shelby County Reporter. This is Davis Potter, our sports intern, here along with Wesley Hallman, sports editor. First, we're going to take a look back at last week's game of the week. Calera traveled to Montevallo for a rivalry game. The Eagles came away with a 34-0 shutout. It wasn't surprising to many of us. But Davis, what were your impressions from the rivalry game last week?
Well, I think it was just more of the same for Montevallo. I think that in their jamboree that they really struggled against Jemison, a bigger, faster opponent. I think it was just more of the same with Calera. Brandon Wells, he had a solid game, 3 combined touchdowns in the night. It's just a process that they're going to have to go through, where they, just keep improving every week. I mean, obviously, they're playing better competition in Calera, but I think it's just they're going to have to just keep showing improvement every week. I think Coach Williams, that's what he's looking for. I think it was a chance for Coach Martin at Calera to see what he had on offense, to see some of his playmakers make some plays. But it wasn't the toughest challenge for them, and they'll get better tests down the road.
I agree with you, Davis. I think both teams learned a lot. Calera with Wells struggling a little bit to combine for about 200 total yards, but they found out that they've got some other running backs back there, to Darius King and Eugene Rogers combining for touchdowns. They're going to be strong, and like you said, for Montevallo, it was a good test right off the bat. Yeah. They found areas they need to improve on defensively. They've got to do a better job stopping the run. Right. I think they'll definitely improve in that area as the season progresses. In addition to the Calera Montevallo game last week, we had Briarwood defeating Demopolis, defending Class 5A state champion. You were there. What were your thoughts about that one?
Impressed. I was impressed with Briarwood. I picked Demopolis to win the game in our pigskin picks. Obviously, they proved me wrong, and really the final score didn't even indicate how well they played. They had penalties. They had a bunch of penalties. They had a bunch of turnovers that really halted, shot themselves in the foot, halted a bunch of their drives. It could have been a lot worse, but, they finally put together one last drive, after their defense got a big fourth down stop late in the fourth quarter. They took it down the field, scored, expanded their lead, to 2 possessions. They really played a solid game. And, I think, with this win over last year, like you said, last year's defending state champions, it's only going to give them confidence down the road. And, they may contend for that Class A championship before it's all said and done.
That's a good point, Davis. I was really impressed with the defensive effort. Yeah. This was a Demopolis team that had some playmakers coming back on offense, but the Briarwood defense is strong year in, year out. 2010 doesn't look much different. Our game of the week this week is Spain Park traveling to Hoover. It'll be at Hoover High School at Buccaneer Stadium this year, as opposed to Regents Park in the past. A lot of developments coming out of Spain Park last week. We had head coach David Shores placed on paid administrative leave after allegedly being involved in a physical altercation with a player. Interim coach Ben Bergeson stepped in to take the Jaguars down to Georgia last week, where they fell to Grayson High School in the Progressive Football Challenge. This week, as of today, Bergeson's still in place as the interim head coach. They'll be traveling to Hoover to take on the Bucks. Davis, what is your assessment of that game?
Well, I don't really think Hoover's going to be worried about Spain Park and what turmoil is going on there. If anybody's followed Alabama high school football, they know Hoover's one of the perennial powers in the state every year. And last week they went on national television and played at Burns, South Carolina, in high school, and they shut them out 14-0. And what Spain Park's going to have to do is shore up their defense. They gave up some long plays against Grayson, some long touchdown plays, and they're going to have to really shut that down. And their pass defense is going to have to be on par, because Hoover's going to try to get the ball to Jalen Denson, obviously one of the fastest rising receiver prospects in the Southeast, a Division I commitment to Auburn. So I think they're going to have to shore up their defensive side of the ball if they even want to have a chance, against the Buccaneers.
You're right, Davis. It looked like they took a few steps in that direction last week from their jamboree against Auburn. It looked like they improved on offense. They moved the ball a little bit better. They still couldn't punch one into the end zone, but they did get 3 field goals in that game. Defensively, they did a better job. Didn't give up quite as many big plays as they did against Auburn. The question is going to be this week: can they rally together? Can they come out and give their best effort against the Bucks? They're looking for their first win in the series. Last year they came close, 24-21, and the closest game in the rivalry to date. But it's going to be interesting to see if they can, come together and rally together this week on Friday night and try to pick up their first win against the Bucks. Join us next week as we take a look back at the Hoover Spain Park game and we break down the biggest games coming up on Friday night.